So I'm going to do an intro for my folks, and then I'll shut up and let Brandy do an intro for her folks. But for my guys, for people that are my subscribers, this is the video I was telling you about, and the better looking one on the screen is Brandy, and we're both recording. It's taken us about 6 hours to even get the images you're seeing. And I mean, we tried Skype, we've tried everything. So now we're on Google Hangout, and it is a little bit blurry. But this is as good as you're going to get. It's not about the pictures. It's about the content. And on my own behalf, I would like to say that if somebody is offended by foul language or blatant, unrestricted truth and reality and all that pro-American thought, that kind of thing, then you're on the wrong channel. I hope that you can watch anyways and listen to the message and don't judge the messenger. And I'm going to shut up now. And Brandy?
Well, Mike, I know that you are a veteran and a retired police officer. Correct me if I'm wrong. So your followers are American patriots, like myself, like you. We're all aware of the social media censoring of conservative views or anything to be seen as controversial or offensive to the left, which is believing in pretty simple conservative values. It's become controversial. So I have lost my Twitter 3 times with no explanation. So that's where all my American patriot conservatives, Trump supporters, that's where they were. And I reached like 10,000 people every day. So since then, well, I'm back now, but I have a huge, massive South African, Afrikaner and Boer following on other platforms, but I don't have that audience anymore. You have that audience, and then I have right now at this point the other audience. So I felt it was important for us to reach both of them.
Yeah, so that, and again, just to put things in context, Brandy, she's been involved with the South African nightmare way longer than me. She and we'll get into that in a second. But basically, she's pretty much been sabotaged, whether it was by various people or just by the liberal-controlled social media platforms that, mysteriously make subscribers disappear. We all know how that works, censorship. So right off the bat, I'm asking everyone who is watching this on LmsTactical to subscribe to Brandy. Every one of them, and share her videos. I've watched her videos. I want you to watch them. Her videos, I'm not saying she doesn't cuss, but you can actually watch her videos with the kids in the room, unlike mine. Yeah.
I get upset. I'm a Texas woman, so I try to have, manners. It's a big thing. But I am back on Twitter if there's any American conservatives, and I tweet about America and all of the issues going on. And it's kind of a pun. It's at Barbie my ass, but 3 S's. Because this is how I'm insulted by the left, by the news media, journalists in South Africa, and by just their government. Anyone who seeks to insult me, they always insult me with calling me Barbie, so that's the name. Pun intended.
They didn't call me Ken, and they never will. That's why mine is still, my Twitter handle is Airborne80. So, yeah, I'm not mistaken for Ken ever. That kind of sucks.
Well, I don't like it.
Yeah, so, Brent, let me ask you something. Why are we I mean, my folks are kind of new. The American following that I have are new to the whole South African thing, and for Brandy's people who are wondering who this red-faced. By the way, that's the lighting. I don't know what's going on here. I look like a cancer patient. It's weird.
Bad lighting.
But you're wondering who I am on Brandy's channel. I'm a guy. Yeah, she's right. I'm a retired LAPD officer. After that, I was a private investigator in California. I became a federal agent with the Inspector General office in Washington, D.C. After 9/11 and was doing things like that. I'm a former Army paratrooper, so I'm very conservative, pro-American. That's just who I am. I'm getting a call here. Oh, I mean, just disable that. I'm sorry. And so my channel is more from a gun channel to a LMS. By the way, means Last Man Standing Tactical. That was the name of the firearms training business I once owned and ran. So it went from a firearms channel to when Obama got elected, it started getting political, and then it became a prepping channel. And now it's because I have the freedom to say what I want, no longer being controlled by employers. It's whatever I want to talk about. And for Brandy's people, I stumbled accidentally into the South African thing, like most Americans, and I mean this with, this is not in a pejorative way, this is the way it is. We just are ignorant about what's going on in South Africa, and most of that is due to media blackout and deliberate avoidance. I happen to have saw a Laura Southern, I guess her name is, one of her videos, and Lauren Southern, and I got so into it that I inadvertently stumbled out of my relaxed state of mind in my easy chair, and now I'm running part of the Underground Railroad for South Africa, and I'm doing the same thing Brandy is. I'm trying to spread awareness. I am in the process of getting a family of 4 out of South Africa, and over here I'm sponsoring them, and they will be in my home just as soon as possible, as soon as I can get them there, or get them from there to here. And so that's who I am for Brandy's audience. And for my audience, Brandy, you tell me, I think you've been doing the South African thing for years and years.
Well, it's always been a great agony for me for, more than 10 years. I've watched this unfold.
Wow.
And I've collected, evidence over that period of time. I was keeping up with the numbers, and I just, I didn't have a clear path to help. I'm in Texas. How do you help these people that are on the other side of the world? And the day that I saw President Trump's tweet, it hit me like a truck. I knew we have to do the same thing that he did if we want to help these people. We bypass the media and we speak directly to the people, which is what he does very brilliantly, very effectively through Twitter, because the media won't report honestly on him. So he has to speak to the American people in a different way. Unfortunately, I can't gain millions and millions of followers like he can, but that was my simple goal. And it has blown up into something I never knew I would speak to a South African. My goal was to inform Americans that we have been being lied to, not only lied to, but intentionally. This has been intentionally hid from us. And it brings me great sadness that this has been allowed to go on for so many years. I would like to say that one person on the mainstream media that has spoken about this is Tucker Carlson. And he's spoken about it several times because he was attacked the first time when he spoke on land expropriation. So the second time he came back and he spoke on the murders as well a little bit. The next day, President Trump tweeted about it, and I had to look it up because I thought it may be fake. It's like something coming together for you that has been just on your heart for so many years. And I was crying. I was just like, I realized with that tweet what he did that he just opened up a huge door. He brought awareness. He put their government on notice, let them know, hey, I know what's going on, you know. And it just did a whole lot of things. And I knew that if we could all run through that door at the same time, we could make a huge difference and maybe save some people's lives.
Yeah. As you can see, I got Mason, that's the LMS mascot, who is, he's mad because I'm doing this video. Mason, bad timing.
He isn't here.
Yeah, so the thing is, you know, for those that are just joining both of us and maybe have never even seen us, listen, there is a nightmare taking place in South Africa. It is, and it's not just one nightmare. Yes, there is a genocide, and it's not politically correct, and it doesn't fit the political narrative to discuss it. And this is why you don't know about it. You don't know about it because the victims are white, and you know, there is no way to say that without sounding like a racist. But myself and I think Brandy are far beyond giving a shit about that, because you know, if there was a city full of black or pink or gay people being slaughtered, you would see me right up front there defending them. And the mere fact that these victims are white is not going to keep me from doing everything I can to get involved and rescue good, innocent people. And the fact that the whole world is not interested because they're white is going to make me fight harder. It ought to make you more concerned. And at the end of this whole thing, at the end of this video, I'm sure Brandy's the same way. She could probably get a law degree tomorrow. She's written so many things, and I'll let her talk about some of what she's done. But I am going to ask that you get involved at the bare minimum of writing your representatives. You can create one paragraph and email them and copy and paste it and send it to the White House. You got to make noise. We'll get into that in a second. But right now, why don't we let Brandy, and the reason I'm going to defer to Brandy is because you can already tell there's a difference in tempo here. And that's a good thing. You know, she's got a lot of knowledge in her. I have a little bit of knowledge about a lot of things, but she's a subject matter expert. And with that, Brandy, I don't mean to sound like you know, Ted or the interviewer, but why don't you start with talking to us about what's going on? What the hell is happening in South Africa? Why are we concerned about South Africa?
First, just let me say that everyone in South Africa suffers. There are so many other factors surrounding these murders that you can't tell where it begins and where it ends. The corruption, everything is thoroughly corrupt, from the post office to the police to the anti-corruption task force. To the school, the education system, okay? And everyone suffers. The reason that I speak for these people is because they are targeted based on the color of their skin. They make up a tiny minority of this country, only 8%. And there are murders. I mean, there are a huge amount of murders against blacks as well. The difference is these murders are very brutal, vicious, and they are done with intent to dehumanize, to cause as much pain as possible. And I've seen it said on video from the attackers. As you spoke about Lauren Southern, I think she interviewed one of the attackers, or one of the people who plan it, and he told you, we rape even the youngest children. Yeah. Even, I mean, very young is how he was speaking. And this is why I advocate for them, because you can't imagine the horror. We don't even have horror movies. Texas Chainsaw Massacre does not do justice to what happens to these people in these attacks. So during these farm attacks, and this is very important for Americans to hear, because in order for you to understand, you have to put yourself, imagine this being your wife and this being done to, imagine watching your children, your wife, everything that as a man, as a husband that you've spent your life building, completely destroyed in front of you. Not just destroyed, but tortured to an extent that you can't even imagine. So the men, they're usually killed last in these attacks when they're on, families with children. And they do this to make them watch. They will cut the Achilles tendons of the mother and the father so they can't go anywhere. And they will force them to watch and it's the attackers, it's usually 5 to 10 attackers. There's a huge AIDS epidemic in South Africa, so usually at least half of the attackers have AIDS, and they gang rape even the smallest infants to death. And if they're not dead by the time that's over, there was one incident where they wrapped the baby in newspaper and they set the baby on fire because the baby wasn't dead. One little boy, and they rape all of the children. It doesn't matter, boy, girl. One little boy, they poured boiling hot water down his throat. I believe he was like 12 years old. Another little girl, 3 years old, crucified to a table. Sorry. And
listen. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
And gang raped, in front of her parents. And this is reality. Like, this is what these people live every day. They can't walk on the streets. They can't go out. Their homes look like prisons. If they do walk on the side of the street, they're threatened to be skinned alive, burned alive, raped, tortured. But not even the children. And that's the thing, is there is no mercy. It's just blind hatred. And the worst part is the people that incite this against them are their own government officials. So I wanted just to finish telling you really quick, and I'm going to let Mike speak. I'm sorry, I get upset talking about the children and the women and just... But the women, as the husband watch, and if they try to look away, they'll cut their eyelids off. So then they take their wives, they brutally gang rape their wives in front of them. They torture them for up to 8 hours, drilling their hands, their feet, their knees, burning them with blowtorches on the bottom of their feet, all over their body, slashing them with knives. I mean, huge cuts, mutilating the women to dehumanize them. I read one report, and I had the autopsy, where the woman was brutally gang raped, not only by attackers, but then with a broken bottle. So by the time they were done with her, she was unrecognizable, and when they took her body to the morgue, they couldn't tell whether she was a woman or a man. That's how much damage they did to this woman. So then they take the wives, they gut them, they string them up by their feet in front of the husbands. I mean, they do everything they can do, and then they kill the husband last. It is truly horrifying. And the number of these murders is staggering since 1994. They report the number to be 70,000, but I have knowledge that the more accurate number is about 100,000. The farming community itself, which provides 70% of the food for all of Africa, has been cut in half. Half.
Wow.
Since 1994. But there's nothing to see here. There are no farm murders. That's what they're...
on my side, now the sound is a little bit touchy on my side. It's kind of coming and going. So if if you are having trouble watching this video on my channel and you're about ready to give up, pop over to Brandy's because she's probably having better luck on the sound. But I want to back up just a second, and I want to drill a little deeper in what she's talking about because it's too important to just gloss over. Not that you glossed over it, but I want to drill it down really tight. So we're talking about murders, big deal. Murders happen everywhere, and we're talking about scary murders, big deal. I've seen man's inhumanity to man like you wouldn't believe, and I'm sure a lot of you have too. People get killed, people get murdered. That's not genocide. But like Brandy has touched on, this meets the criteria, the legal definition and criteria for genocide, and I'll let her get into that later. However, I want to get your mind on the images, the actual imagery that takes place here, because this is what needs to tug at your heartstrings and tug at your consciousness. I have always said, since this began with me, that during the Holocaust, afterwards, people had plausible deniability. The people in America could very well say, and did, hey, bless you, we didn't know what was going on over there. We weren't aware of it. Well, we have the internet now. We've got instant communication. And guess what? You know about it now because you're watching this and we're telling you about it. And you can start doing your research. And if you Google it, Google's run by a bunch of liberal assholes. And the first thing that's going to pop up is going to be that it's a ruse and it's done by white supremacists. So you got to consider your sources. You can't just believe what you read. You got to work at it to get to the truth. Now, when she's talking about horrific murders, say again?
Use the hashtags to find it. Hashtag farm murders. Hashtag
farm murders.
Hashtag board testimony.
Now why is this happening in the farms? And for those people, listen, the farms are immense, and the homes are very far apart. And these are very good targets for these guys. And they know what they're doing. The farmers have dogs, they poison the dogs. They cut the electric fences, they come in big groups with machetes and guns. They even have cell phone jamming equipment, which she'll get into later. There's proof that there's involvement of law enforcement and probably military. The whole country's fucked up. I mean, come on. They've got listen, after the white people that were in charge of that country up until 94, they used to have one of the most powerful militaries ever. They had nuclear missiles. They had a couple of submarines. They were a formidable force. Now they handed it over to the black Africans, and the submarines can't get out of the harbor. They slam into the fucking the coral. I mean, that's a whole different video. I'll make it because it's actually kind of funny. But what happens is you've got these criminals wearing uniforms, and you've got these these bottom-feeding criminals that steal from their people and turn their people. They blame everything on the white community, which is 5 million, and I think there's 70 or 80 million black Africans. And then you've got coloreds, and you've got all these different people, but you got the majority of these people are black versus this 5 million of white people who are just as African, by the way. Their lineage in Africa goes back further than our country in America. They go back to like 1652. Or not 16. Was it 14?
1652. Well, I mean, it goes back further than that, but that is when they officially settled the Cape with the East India Trading Company. But there were they were there before that.
No, I was going to say that. Yeah, they were there before the black Africans, and it's all of this is historical fact, and people can deny it and try to cross it out. And you can tear down Confederate statues in America, and it doesn't mean the Civil War didn't happen. I mean, so you got to be smarter than these asshole communists that are trying to destroy our country, and they have the same problem over there. So the reality is that now you've got a bunch of spun up, out of control, drug crazed fucking population of black Africans with an unbelievable rate of AIDS. And so when you ask, well, why do they rape infants? There's a reason for that. This is the ignorance of these cocksuckers. They literally believe that if they rape a virgin, AIDS will be cured. So and it's a combination of weird superstitious beliefs that inducing a lot of pain in your victim and horror, and it gives you some kind of power. These are like fucking primitive mindsets, and so they don't just go in there and kill you. When you die, that's the blessing. That's the best part of the whole thing. The problem is you got 8 hours or so before that happens, because they know how to drag it out. And when my sound was cutting out here, but Brandy was talking about blowtorching the bottoms of people's feet, nailing children to the table, and then taking their turns raping them, all in front of the father who's got his Achilles tendons cut so he can't get up and his eyelids cut off. This is not fantasy or scary movie. This is real human beings. And I'm going to tell you, go look at the comments in my South African videos. I'm a pretty tough dude. I pretend like I am. And the other night and this morning, I was shedding tears because some of the shit these people that are on the ground living there are telling me. I had a guy just yesterday. I took a screenshot of his comments because I'm going to do a video just on this whole thing. He literally has, because they've disarmed the white people for the most part, he has made a homemade weapon, and I'm sure he's watching this, and he has got his plan, and part of his plan with his wife and 2 daughters includes shooting his wife and his 2 daughters and then himself, because he's not going to allow his daughters to be raped. Now, when you think about that at first, that's just words. But really think about it. Put yourself in that place. Empathize. Look at your wife right now, men, and look at your daughters, moms, and imagine blowing their fucking brains out so that they can avoid what she just described, it's going to fucking happen to these people. This is not something that might happen. It's happening right now. Randy, what are the numbers of farm attacks per month right now?
Well, it's gotten worse lately because the elections are coming up. I can't tell you an exact number by month. I have all the data. I have all the evidence. I have all the evidence anybody could ever want. I get the crime scene photos. I get all of this stuff. This is why I get emotional talking about the children, because I have it. I have all of the evidence. But on average, I think a farmer is attacked every 1.5 days or something like that. There's a farm attack. I mean, the number is, I know that this morning I just posted, I think yesterday there were four farm attacks just in one day on white people. On whites. What did you say, Mike? And what?
I said I could hear you. I had to step out and let Mason.
I wanted to just.
I'm so sorry.
It's we'll say every 2 days.
At least, yeah. I was thinking that it's steadily increased in the last few years. The statistics that South Africa puts out are bullshit, and even they are high. And what you get from the South African government is, on top of the denials, you get, well, a lot more blacks are killed than whites. Well, that's false info, because when you look at it from a per capita population. Yeah, I mean, listen, I'm from Los Angeles. I didn't finish high school, and I can handle this math problem. You got 5 million of one color and 70 to 80 million of the other, and the numbers of about 30 a month of this one. It's the highest murder rate in the world. It's even higher than any current combat zone right now.
It's the deadliest job in the world.
Go ahead.
A South African farmer is twice as likely to be murdered than a police officer. Their murder rate is like three times the international average. That's insane.
Wow. I mean, yeah, a farmer, which, by the way, they produce the food for these idiots. So I don't want to turn this into a history lesson about Africa in general, but if you get bored and you're new to this whole concept, take a look at what happened to Zimbabwe. Take a look at what happened to Rhodesia. These places were were breadbaskets of their areas. They were producing, and it was because they had the same type of situation going on. Well, you know, these places now are starving to death, and this is what's going to happen in South Africa.
It's horrible.
Yeah, I mean, so what is our mission? You might be asking yourself, so what can we do about it, Mike and Brandy? What can we possibly do? Listen, the history's going to look back at. I'm not trying to guilt you into anything. I'm just trying to guilt you into shit. Listen, history is going to look back and wonder what people did once they were aware. Just like the Jews and just like slavery and everything else, there's a Holocaust taking place with real people, real Christian, and that's the other thing. They're Christians. The majority of white people in Africa are Christians, and you know, if they were Muslims and something happened, I know I'm not supposed to talk about this, but the whole world would be over there to rescue them. If it was white people and they killed 6 black people, the whole fucking world would be over there. Well, we should not. We're going to have to answer to somebody someday, whether it's God or karma. We're going to have to answer to why we didn't do anything about these little boys and girls and these women and these hardworking farmers and these men that just want to live in peace, who did not invade Africa. They were born there. Their parents, their grandparents, their great-grandparents, they're African. These are African people, all right? They're not fucking Europeans any more than I'm an Irish guy, all right? I was fucking born here. I'm not an Irish guy. I just got an Irish temper. Now, so, you know, we're going to be looked at, and what we want, what's going to happen is we have to make fucking noise, because when we make enough noise, then, you know, President Trump can just pick up the phone and make a and I know from the bottom of my heart, I don't know if Brandy agrees, I think she does, but President Trump is hamstrung right now because of our own elections coming up. This is my opinion. I think that he's doing some things behind the scenes. He sent a delegation. He's doing this, that. But listen, like I said on one of my videos, if President Trump helped an old white lady cross the street, the liberals in America would go crazy saying he was a racist because he never helped an old black lady cross the street. He's got to watch what he does. Once he becomes president again, which he will in 2020, you know, then I think more will happen. Problem is, I don't think we have enough time for that, because Brandy, when is the election in South Africa?
There's not much time. There's not much time. These people are running on short time. The elections will be. The elections are supposed to be held on the week of May 8th, but it's so much is coming out of South Africa. Number one, their power system is failing due to the infrastructure not being upgraded with the money that was given for Eskom for it to be upgraded. They're currently going through load shedding for hours and hours, sometimes 12 hours a day. And the bigger implication is they're not short on coal. The coal is being sold to China. Okay, there were 36 Chinese ships.
Just for people that don't know, load shedding, and which is taking place over there, is basically what they refer to as staggering the power load, because they've got something. Listen, the black people in Africa inherited a beautiful infrastructure. I mean, it was gorgeous. They had great public buildings and beautiful highways, and they had a nuclear power plant handed to them. Thank God they got rid of the freaking 2 nuclear missiles. Now, nuclear power plants leaking.
They didn't.
I'm sorry?
They didn't.
Yeah. I mean, listen, every public building is not for human. It's falling apart. So the electrical grid is basically down to, you know, their dam is getting ready to collapse. All of the shit not maintained. Their military equipment, nothing. So what happens when the power goes out? Listen, the power's gone out in New York City throughout history, and there's been all kinds of shit happen. Not picking on New York, but any big city, when the power goes out, you increase crime and blah blah. Well, imagine the power going out and never coming back on again, because that's what's getting ready to happen over there. They are operating off of, it'd be like running off of one fucking Home Depot generator. And that's barely able to handle it. They do 4 hours here, and if you live over here, it comes on for 4 hours, and over here 4 hours. I think now they're off for 8 hours, and they owe China unbelievable amounts of money just to keep their electricity on. So that's ESCOM. And where'd all that money go? It went into the fucking hands of these corrupt people that run the country and probably into offshore banks. Who knows?
Yes, it did go into offshore banks, as a matter of fact. I happen to have some of those banking documents. So the big thing is that I speak to so many every day, and there are so many reports that maybe there won't be an election, that there are plans to a planned complete blackout starting on the 3rd, May 3rd, all the way up until the week of the elections. Now, no one knows for sure if this is going to happen, but I mean, these reports have come from some pretty good, sources of intelligence. It could or could not happen. I don't know, but if this happens, there will be a mass slaughter, not only of whites, but of every law-abiding citizen. There will be the haves and the have-nots, and the have-nots will take what the haves have, and with no mercy. They're on the verge of an economic collapse. Yes, they were handed a first world country 25 years ago. The reason China's there is for the minerals. We haven't even talked about them stealing their land, not only their land, but they changed the Constitution to be able to take white-owned land without compensation, so expropriation without compensation. And in this bill, it is not only land that they can take. They can take any property that has monetary value or brings monetary gain. This is against international law. It is insane. Imagine being American and somebody coming to your land, your grandfather's land, that you've had in your family for 300 years. And some of these people in the old Transvaal have owned this land for 300 years. And telling you, this is not your land anymore. You need to leave. And get out of the country. Where do you go? They can't go anywhere. They are South African citizens, and people don't understand they cannot just leave. They pay 90% of the taxes to a government that incites its people to murder them. Literally, the government calls for their murder. They are unable to get jobs because of the broad-based Black Economic Empowerment Act. And this states that only 7% of the workforce can be white. They are not allowed to apply for government jobs. They're not even wanted in the military. They're not wanted on sports teams. I mean, you'd take a man and you'd steal his livelihood for 25 years. You make him unable to feed his family. Even the highly skilled, educated whites, the police officers, for example, many of your subscribers will understand this. When they put this law into place, they took these highly trained, highly skilled former military guys that had been, police all of their life or military, and they replaced them with low-level Black workers with no experience in ever being a police officer. And that's what happened with government jobs as well. People who didn't have any idea what they're doing. And then that doesn't, everything is so corrupt. The money that is supposed to be used, so the biggest amount of government money is used for education and the healthcare system. And that's probably the same for us, in our military. But so people sought these jobs. For one was the Deputy President, David Mabuza. He used to be the Minister of Education in a certain province. And what he would do is he would tell them these astronomical costs to build schools, like 3 times what it normally cost, right? When the school was done, it's falling apart. A child actually died in the bathroom in a toilet. I mean, literally falling apart. And basically pocketed the money. That's the same thing with ESCOM. Instead of upgrading the infrastructure and doing the maintenance on the power system, they pocketed the money. Okay, that's why the power system is failing. It wasn't made. They weren't these substations that have been exploding. Some of them have been being sabotaged and set on fire purposely, but some of them have been exploding because they're not made to be turned off and turned back on, and they haven't been maintained. And so when they turn them back on after turning them off for so many hours, some of them just blow up. So it's crazy. And then not be able to get jobs. I would like Americans to know that even the most fortunate white South Africans that still have jobs, and I mean, it's horrible when I tell you they can't get jobs. I mean, an engineer couldn't get a job at a damn gas station. I'm so serious. And
Wow.
the most fortunate, and we're talking about the ones that are not poor, they're not wealthy, not the wealthy, but they survive off of what amounts in American money to about $250 a month. The most fortunate.
$250 a month
is what it adds up to in American money. Their food is very expensive.
Wow.
Their diesel or their gas is very expensive. Their cost of living for their rent or their home is expensive. And this is what they survive on. And they pay 90% of the taxes. So there's not only the BBBBEE keeping them from working, there's also affirmative action for the 90%. If that doesn't blow your mind, I don't know what will. 90%.
Right. And yeah, 90%. And what you can see the effects are. There's so many different effects, but you can go on different YouTube channels and you can actually see exposed growing shanty towns of impoverished white people. Now, the people that are looking to find a racist behind every tree are going to say, well, why does that bother you? Because there's all kinds of poor black people in the shanty. The reason it bothers me is because these people are forced to live like that only because of the color of their skin. They were forced out of their homes and shoved into say again?
That's a part of genocide. Being forced into living conditions that could cause death. Not having lights, food,
yes.
Electricity.
So I mean, just imagine yourself, and those people are going to pop up and say, "Well, it's payback. That's what they get for apartheid. Look at you, cocksuckers. You had slavery." Look, if that's your mentality, you need to just go up on a very steep roof and do something on the edge, okay? Because you just don't count. What I want to say is this: imagine your government signing a legislation where they could come into your home and your property and your farm and take everything and just give it to the public. So you can go see videos where you got bands of black people showing up to these farms that have been in the family for 300-400 years, saying, "Okay, we're here to take the land. Get off." Imagine that, or you tomorrow end up out on the street with your kids and your dogs and your cats, living in a shanty town, unable to get any work, and the only way you can eat is through the donations that come in. That's what's happening, and it's happening in great, big, huge numbers, and it's unacceptable. Unacceptable.
And another lie is, Mike, that this land will never be given to any black in South Africa. They may rent the land, but they will never own that land. If they take this land from these people, if they manage to do it, it's going to start a civil war if they try. But if they do it, it will be government-owned land, just like Stalin did. The people will never own it. This is a lie perpetrated by the ANC, the ruling party, and the EFF is just another branch of the ANC that does their dirty work. That's it. They're all connected. They're all together. Malema has been
They're all getting rich.
investigated for planning farm murders. A ruler of a political party. Imagine someone standing in our Congress singing a song for all white people to be murdered, or any color for that matter. Imagine that. It sounds insane because it is, but it happens there.
You can see it, yeah. They're singing songs about killing white people. I mean, it's unbelievable.
In
Now, let me
Parliament,
ask you something. Does our government, and it's a rhetorical question, but I want people to hear it, does our government give financial aid to South Africa?
yes, and let me tell you where your tax money is going. Right now, it's estimated that we send about $500 million in aid every year. We've been doing this for 25 years. Okay, that's $12.5 billion. That
To a
money,
bunch of racist, thieving murderers.
and it doesn't go to help the people. I would like everyone to know where their tax money is going, and that these white squatter camps that Mike talked about, because they are white, they get no government aid. They do not qualify for government aid because they're white. The other squatter camps that have people of different races, they do get some aid. They do get food parcels. Even the water trucks. Right. Even the water trucks a lot of times pass these white squatter camps by, and they have no water, no electricity, nothing. But the whites are provided no government aid. So this money is going, and it's basically just lining the pockets of these government officials. They're billionaires. Billionaires.
Oh yeah, you can. I've gone and I've been doing this, for a short time, but I have been burning the midnight oil researching, and I've seen pictures of these scumbags with their mansions and their helicopters and their airplanes and all of their bullshit. Their expensive jewelry while their people starve, and whether they like it or not, the white people are part of their population. And for
but the
a
black
country,
people
by the
are
way,
starving too.
Yeah. The black people are starving to. In fact, they shit on the black people. The only difference between the black population and the white population is there's no mass murder being endorsed by the government against the black people. But they're abused and they're starving. And listen, for a country that used to be a first world country, most people don't realize that the water in the entire country is not potable. You cannot drink the water out of the faucet or you get sick. You must buy bottled water or have it donated. And if you don't have it, there is human fecal matter in the public water system because the system has been not maintained.
They dump tons in there every day. They dump tons of raw sewage every day into their...
Yeah, I mean, it's disgusting and deadly.
Yeah, I mean, it's horrible. And I know we're getting close to where we wanted to be, so we can finish up. I mean, anything we don't cover on this. But I wanted to tell people, because I know you have a lot of veterans that follow your channel, and I would like them to know that these farmers, these Boer farmers, they have fought beside our veterans in many wars. Iraq specifically, I have a great friend who is a farmer and a excuse me, a veteran of the Iraq War. His commander was actually Ranger Commander Bobby Lane, who is a legend and everyone knows. They came when our government called on them, without question. And they fought beside us, and they were like brothers with the men they fought with. Yet now they're in need. And when I tell you in need, if you're a veteran, the men that fought without question for your country, their children are being slaughtered. They are in need. And it's supposed to be no
I want to
one left
repeat.
behind.
I want to repeat some of this because, Brandy, the sound is really bad on my end, and it's coming in and out, and it's too important. And you just stop me if I get it wrong, because we're only hearing every other word. So Brandy's talking about the veterans, and a lot of you are veterans out there. Listen, these guys, these farmers, boers, they have fought valiantly in every war, including this Afghan war, the Iraq war. They fought right alongside her, man. The one she's talking about is also a new friend of mine, and this guy, and there's countless stories like that where he physically saved the lives and participated in the saving of lives of many Americans. He's a special forces guy, but South African military was always there, ready to help, and even the contractors were there to go overseas into Iraq and Afghanistan when we needed help, and now they need help, and the help is not coming. It's like, look, we can't let these people down. I mean, they have always been ready to help us, and if that doesn't work, this ought to jack your crank a little bit. I just saw an article this morning, and I knew this was going on, but it's now the article. Other countries are stepped up to help. And Russia is helping. Russia is taking these people, that they're actually offering land for these farmers. Now, how it's going to work out, I don't know, man. Because
Russia does nothing out of the kindness of their heart.
What, say it again?
Russia does nothing out of the kindness of their heart. They hear.
Yeah, I mean, so. You've got other people that are slowly being more interested in it than America. America seems to be very quiet about it, and Britain too, by the way. And when you look at the history of South Africa, I think both of our countries need to step up and help these people, because we sure did our part in forcing them to give up one system that may have been arguably not so good, but the country guilted and sanction them into it, and then turn their back when it turned to shit and people started dying. I mean, that's not the right way to do things. So I don't know, Brandy. What do you think, man? I mean, why don't you make some points that you want to make that we missed out on?
Okay, I wrote an article about this, actually, and it covers apartheid, and it's called Exposing Ramaphosa. And in this article, I did a lot of research, and 60% of Black South Africans say that their quality of life was better under apartheid. I'm not saying that everything was perfect. There were bad things that happened, as in any society, right? But there were things that worked. It was a first world country. Even blacks were able to get the best education. It wasn't terror for everyone. And, I speak to more people than just white people, that are good people there, law-abiding people, and they're being terrorized. They think it's wrong too. I've had them tell me I would rather be under white rule than live in this terror. It was better. Life was better. I've had people tell me that. So it's made out to be this evil thing, but there are good and evil people in every society, so some things work, some things don't. What I know is it was a first world country with top military, sports teams, education, everything. And now it's burning. It's a third world country. They have nothing. It's sad. It's very sad if you've ever seen what it looked like before. But, okay, so we talked about the veterans, and I just wanted to say that for those veterans who care for other veterans, these men that fought beside you, their children are being slaughtered. They came to our aid without question when the DOD called on them. And they fought, and they protected generals, admirals, I mean, you name it. Their children are being tortured, raped, slaughtered, and they need our help, and we need to step up, and we need to demand that someone at least stop this. We did have a hand in this. We forced them to hand over their country to these demons. And that's the only thing I can call them, because humans do not enjoy killing. And they brag about it online, their acts. They brag about the raping of children with intent to give them AIDS. Elderly, it doesn't matter if you're 90 years old. I mean, I have thousands of the images where they tell them what they're going to do to them, and that their goal, there's no solution, because they seek no solution. These people have been so brainwashed by the government that they seek no solution. The blind hatred, I've experienced it myself. I tried to reason, debate, all of that. As soon as I said something that there was no answer to, I was called every name in the book. I was threatened with rape, torture, called a racist, you name it. There's no reason. They just hate. And that's it. I mean, there's no solution.
Yeah.
And I just want to know, what are they going to do?
It's not negotiable.
When they're all
when
dead.
you're dealing with people like that don't want something, and they're not demanding anything except the death of a group of people. That's what they want, So other countries are going to have to step up and step in, and that's all there is to it. Open their borders,
because what people don't understand, they say, why don't they just leave? They cannot just leave. The rules are different for them. Number one, their government makes it hard for them to leave because they pay 90% of the taxes. It's very hard for them to get a visa. Some can't even afford the cost to get a visitor visa.
Right.
A lot, actually most. But to come into the United States, you say, okay, well, why don't they just come? The laws are different for them. They can't just come like how people come from Mexico. The laws are different, and it is so hard for them to come into the country, and this is something we need to push for. They need to be granted refugee status. They need to be allowed to flee from there. And that's the problem. They cannot leave. You can't be a citizen of South Africa, a white citizen, and just walk into another country and say, okay, well, I live here now. It doesn't work that way. And they don't have money. They don't have money. One of their rand makes, 14 to 17 of their rand make up $1 American. This is why American money goes so far to help them.
Yeah, and so, they price them out of being able to leave. They also, the bureaucracy and corruption, just to get a visa is, you're probably talking a year if you could afford it. And quite frankly, the rest of the world doesn't treat these people very nice either, the white South Africans. They don't make it extremely easy to even come in here. So, these people are being persecuted for the sole purpose or the sole reason of the color of their fucking skin. And that's the part that you need to focus on. That is, what happened to all this equality shit that we all grew up hearing about.
Yeah, exactly.
So, I don't know.
And I have a couple of videos if they would like to see some victims. I have a part 1 and a part 2 tribute video to a few farm murder victims on my YouTube, and it tells their story. I had some pretty graphic pictures up in a video, but of course they made me take it down. But anyone that's interested in really helping can email me, and I'll share this with you. I have thousands of files. I have thousands of these stories and the crime scene photos, and it's horrifying. For anyone who doesn't believe it and needs to see it, my email is on my channel. It's conservativetexaswoman@gmail.com, and I'll share the truth with you. If you can't find it, because you can't Google it and find it, I will share it with you. gladly.
Yeah, so that's for those that didn't hear it, it's conservativetexaswoman@gmail.com. And she has all of the documentation and crime scene photos, and really think twice before you take a look at that stuff. I've seen, although there is a school of thought, which I understand, and is that we shouldn't hide from it. Maybe we should force ourselves to look at it, because it makes it a lot more real. I've seen a lot of things and thought that I couldn't be shocked that when I first started digging into the South African genocide, I wasn't prepared for it. You can't unsee some of that shit.
You can't.
I'm talking about, 16-year-old girls with mops going up one hole and coming out of their mouth and laying dead in the bathtub. I've seen it. Crucified with giant crosses going down their throats. I mean, little babies boiled alive. I mean, that's stuff you don't want to see, but listen, it's happening. They're seeing it. They're watching it happen.
Yeah, they don't have a choice. They don't have a choice.
It makes me furious just even talking about it. But Brandy, what do you think? We probably should wrap it up. I think we've done about an hour or so.
I would just like to ask everyone. I made a post the other couple of days ago on Facebook, asking everyone to write the president. He doesn't see everything, of course, but if they get 10,000 emails at one time, like Mike and I talked about, someone's going to take notice and say, hey, somebody needs to look at this, or tell him. So they can't ignore everything. And so I wrote my letter. I added with my letter some letters from South Africa from some organizations, well respected there, and some documentation of proof of what their government has been involved in. I urge everyone, we are the last watchdog in the world. American patriots are the last people that truly care for people and try to do the right thing and stand up for what's right. If we don't do it, who's going to do it? There's no one else.
It won't get done. It's not going to get done if we don't do it, period.
Yeah, help us show them why they love America so much. Help us show them the best of us. And I urge you just to do everything you can. Write the president, write your congressman, your senator, to make this an issue. Tell them this is an issue, and we want to know what the hell is going on.
And when you ask yourself, well, what exactly do we want to happen? There's different types of people in South Africa. There are those that want to get the fuck out, and because they don't want their children to be there anymore, and they want to come to different places. America is probably their first choice. And unlike some immigrants that the left wants to bring in that shoot out 1,000 babies and drain our welfare system for the rest of eternity, generation after generation. And by the way, I was raised on welfare. So I scratched and clawed my way out of it. Okay, so but there is a lot of people that come across our borders that just use the system. South Africans are like that. They want to come here like our ancestors and embrace America. They're excited about, the ones that want to come here are excited about the prospect of a new president and their flag and making their American dream come true. There are others that want to stay there and they're not going to leave, but they're not going to survive if we don't get involved. The government has to get involved. And like Brandy said, an email here and there, nobody gives a shit. An aide says, yeah, great, and they file it, they make sure it's not a threat. But you make enough noise, you see enough people, somebody has to get off their ass and walk into the president's office and go, we keep hearing shit about this South Africa stuff, man. So you're going to have to make a statement at a press conference. That, or a tweet, one tweet like she talked about. It doesn't take much, but, it could change the history and the future for those people. Maybe we don't have to do a full-blown invasion of South Africa.
No.
Maybe when their government realizes we're going to turn off the spigot of free money, maybe they'll start getting their own affairs in order. But right now they're operating without any pressure from anybody, and it's time we turn up the heat on these assholes.
You're right. And the last thing that I would like to say to your followers is that most of you guys probably don't know that this is very urgent. There's no time. It is imperative that we do something to help. And I need you to understand that if we don't, they will face a full-on attack very soon. Something very horrible is going to happen very soon. Everyone knows it's coming there. They are terrified. I have people reach out to me every day begging me for help, and my hands are tied, you know. So there's not a lot of time, and these people will be wiped from the face of the earth if we don't stand up for them, and they don't deserve that. And that is the last thing I would like to say, and I would like to thank all of your subscribers for taking the time to listen to me. I really appreciate it so much. I can't even tell you, because this is everything to me.
Well, likewise, and Brandy, I apologize to everybody about the sound quality. It's, this is what we have to deal with. Maybe in the future, I'm going to research and see. There's another guy. What's that guy's name? Willem Petzer. He's got a channel, and yeah, he does interviews or where he'll debate people, and whatever program that dude's using, I gotta find out.
I can reach out. Can you?
You see, I couldn't hear you.
Can you hear me? I said I can reach out and find out.
Yeah. I mean, him and I talked too on comments on the thing. So either way, I'm going to ask him, and he's probably watching now. Tell me what you use, because I like his system. The point being, this one kind of sucks.
I would like to know, Willem Petzer, how you're dealing with load shedding and your internet is working better than our internet.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I mean, his is very clear, and so yeah, I apologize for that, but maybe the next time it'll be better. We'll figure out a way to do it a little bit better. But thank you guys, and thank you for Brandy's subscribers for subscribing to my channel. You better do it, because if I find out you didn't, I'll come for you. But yeah, and Brandy, thank you so much for spending the time with me today, and it's been fun. I always learn a lot talking to you.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and I really appreciate it. And hopefully, when we get this sound issue figured out by the expert, we can maybe do this again on a different topic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we'll get the technical stuff squared away, and we'll do this again. Absolutely.
Okay.
I think it's a good mix. But in the meantime, everybody stay safe, and Brandy, you stay safe, and you and I'm sure we'll talk very soon.
Yeah, thank you so much, Mike, and thank you to all your subscribers. I will talk to you soon.